Hi, everybody. This is Kathy Grosskirth with Bookkeeping Clean and Simple here in Austell, Georgia, near Metro Atlanta. And today I'm going to be talking about the undeposited funds account and hopefully explain it in a way that makes sense to many of you. Now, keep in mind that this video is a little bit longer than my standard 3-minute video, but hopefully by the time you get finished watching this, you'll understand most of what you need to know to be able to use undeposited funds correctly and to understand the workflows. I am going to be using Craig's Design and Landscaping Services to demo these concepts, but before I do that, I want to go ahead and flip over to my PowerPoint presentation so that I can go ahead and explain some underlying concepts with you before I actually go into the demo. All right, everyone, we're in my PowerPoint. I'm going to talk about the standard workflows for receivables from a manual perspective and understand that even though we are going to be doing the demo inside QuickBooks Online, these principles are completely applicable equally to desktop users. So please keep that in mind. As you can see, the first step is to create an invoice or sales receipt, which I have outlined here. And when you actually create a sales receipt, you're actually recording payment receipt at the time the services is rendered. So basically that knocks out these two steps right here for the sales receipt. When you're issuing an invoice, you're actually granting your customer a certain period of time beyond the date of service to pay. So that will actually happen in a separate step, which we will talk about. But either way, once you create the invoice or sales receipt and receive the payment, then the final step in that is to actually make the deposit. Now, you're not going to go to the bank every single day with every single check or every single cash payment and make separate deposits like that. You might do that in a mobile app, but you can even group those in a single mobile deposit now. But in a manual system, when you're going to the bank, you're actually going to hold on to that cash and those checks, and you're going to record the deposits on a deposit slip. You're going to write all those out or print those out, however you do them. And you might go every day, or you might go twice a week, or you might go once a week, depending on how much cash or checks you have on hand, because you don't want to hold on to those. You want to get those deposited so you can pay your bills or whatnot. But you're going to actually, in a manual system, physically go to the bank. You're going to hand them the envelope with all the cash and checks in it with the deposit slip filled out. They're going to verify the amounts. They're going to give you a receipt for the deposit, which you're going to bring back to your business. So in a manual system, this is how it happens. So we're going to go ahead and go on to the next slide. And this is where we're actually going to explain what undeposited funds is. And then once I do that, I'll go back and relate all this to the manual system as it's done in QuickBooks, and then we'll do the demo. So basically, when we're talking about undeposited funds, it's a temporary account. Now think of it as the zippered envelope used to carry the actual deposit instruments to your financial institution when making an in-person deposit, like we discussed in the last slide. You're going to basically use the undeposited funds as your zippered envelope or your zippered pouch. Now, when we also talk about undeposited funds, this is where we're actually grouping the actual payments together before making the actual deposit in the bank. And it's designed to match the actual deposit amounts to what appears on the bank statements. And it's a very important workflow for QuickBooks, both desktop and online users who do not use QuickBooks payments and record payments manually or import payment transactions from external services such as PayPal, Square, Stripe, etc. And then the bottom line is that the process, again, mimics the manual process that I just described for receivables on the previous slide. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and go to the next slide here. And now we can discuss the recommended workflow in QuickBooks and relate it to that previous discussion that we had earlier. So when you're creating an invoice or sales receipt in QuickBooks Online or Desktop, you're going to automatically, with the sales receipt, like I said, it's it does both of these steps in one fell swoop. You're going to set the deposit to account to undeposited funds, as you can see here that I drew the line here. When you actually receive the payment for the invoice at some later date, you're going to do the same thing with that. Either way, the undeposited funds account is the one that you're going to point that to. So again, those received payments go into undeposited funds. And then when you actually make the deposit in QuickBooks, either desktop or online, those payments are grouped together, as you can see. And I'm going to go through this in the demo. So that way you'll see that those deposits will appear just the way that they will appear on that deposit slip that you would take to go to the bank or whatnot. And what the end result is that it's going to make reconciling the bank account so much easier when you actually go in and reconcile, because all the amounts will match what's on the bank statement and everything like that. So let's go ahead and switch back to our demo file, and I will show you how that is done. Okay, so we are back in our sample Craig's Design and Landscaping Services file, and I'm going to go ahead and show you the process for the sales receipt first, since it's simultaneous issuing and receiving the payment at the same time. What I want to do is I want to go ahead and click on the sales and then go over here to customers, and we're just going to find a customer that we're just going to create a sales receipt really quick for. It's actually easier to go ahead and create the sales receipt if you're in the customer record, and I'll show you why in just a minute. I did this in a previous session, so hopefully this will be a little bit of a review to you. As you can see, there's already a sales receipt here, and I can click on the new transaction drop down and do sales receipt, and that's going to pull in all of Pies Cakes information here. But what you can even do is, if it's a recurring type of expense or something like that, then you can set up a recurring expense and do it that way. But I'm just going to do a really simple, what we call copy, for the purpose of what we're doing. So I'm going to do a more, and then I'm going to copy this. And basically it's just telling you it's a copy. And then again, it pulls everything in. All you have to do is you have to update the sales receipt information. And I think it'll do that automatically if it's set up to do that way. So it's basically going to be the same service here, this $87.50. And then the date of this transaction is today, which is the 17th of June. And as you can see, the deposit to account is set to undeposited funds. So it's going to appear on, when we actually go and make deposits, it'll appear on that. So I'm not going to send this out. What I want to do is I want to save and close. I'm not going to change anything on here. I'm just going to go ahead and save and close as is. And then when we go and do the invoice, the receipt payment on the invoice, and then make the deposit, you'll see it on that list. So let's go ahead and go on to the invoice area. I'm going to go ahead and click on the invoices here. And I want to actually find an invoice that is overdue. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this overdue. And that should bring that up. Here we go. This is the one that I want to find, this Shara Barnett. And this is 10 days overdue. And I want to go ahead and receive payment against this. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the receive payment button here. And that invoice was issued like on the 7th, and you can see it's overdue. But when you do the receive payment, it automatically pulls that in from that particular customer. And what I want to do is I'm just going to go ahead and make sure that this deposit is set to go to undeposited funds, which it is. I can put the reference number of the check here if I wanted to, put the payment method here. It's all, and I would recommend you go ahead, and if you have a check that you receive, put that number in, just for the purpose of what we're doing here. I'm going to do 102357, and that makes it easier to find later on if you're wanting to do it. So and it's for the entire amount here, and you can put that note in there if you want to, or note if you need to. I'm just going to go ahead and save and close that. So now that I've saved and closed that, it leaves that list, but now we can go ahead and do the make deposit. So I'm going to click on the new button here, over here in the left corner, and if you go under the other column, you can do bank deposit. All right, so we are in the bank deposit screen now, and as you can see, that Pies Cakes, remember that Pies Cakes that I just created, that sales receipt? I'm going to go ahead and click on it, and I'm going to go ahead and click on the Shara Barnett design that I just received payment for, and you can see that was the number that I put in there, the reference number. That's that check number. We can put memos in here, but we also have two other instruments that we are going to be adding to this deposit. So we can click on all four of those checks. We can actually do batch select if we want to do that. And as you can see, as you take away check marks or add to them, it changes the amount. But basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to match your manual deposit slip and make sure all this matches, because when you actually make this deposit at the bank, you want it to match what appears in QuickBooks, and that's the purpose behind that. So I'm going to go ahead and do save and close. And that will take us back to our screen. And now we can click on our deposit, and you should see you can do a filter by due date, and you can see that where those were all deposited in there. That's how you group the deposits to make sure it matches the payments. Hopefully this will help you today as you're going through and trying to figure out how to use this workflow, and it will really help you keep your deposits straight and to get your reconciliations done correctly in both QuickBooks Desktop and online. Thank you for watching. I would love it if you would like and subscribe to my channel, as well as share it with others. I am adding on average one video per week, including the occasional motivational video. I would love nothing more than to help you maximize your usage of QuickBooks Desktop and online. My email is below, as well as the number where you can text me for more information and to set up an initial consult. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.